Good evening and welcome to the Saturday edition of Poland Daily. I'm Conrad Gorlinski. Well, we start this evening with Ukraine. The country celebrated Defenders Day yesterday and shared a minute of silence for its most recent defenders as well. The Pentagon continued with their support for the Ukrainian war effort. It announced yet another tranche of military aid for Ukraine worth about $725 million. Here's more.
On the occasion of the Defenders Day, which is celebrated in Ukraine on October 14th, President Volodymyr Zelensky honored soldiers and civil servants with state decorations. The participants of the ceremony commemorated the fallen with a minute of silence. Ukrainians in all generations of our nation fought above all for freedom. The war started by Russia is crucial now. With our victory, we can ensure what our ancestors fought for. We can give Ukraine a long-term guarantee of peace and security. We can fight for freedom for future generations. Eternal glory to all those who fight and work for Ukraine. Eternal gratitude, great gratitude, and a respect for all who stood up for the freedom of our homeland. Glory to Ukraine. Volodymyr Zelensky also visited wounded soldiers who are in the military hospital in Kiev. The president awarded patients and doctors with decorations. Firing at Ukrainian cities continues. About 50 missiles fell on Nikopol in the Dnipropetrovsk region during the night. 2 people are injured. The Russians also fired on Zaporizhia and the vicinity of Kiev. Serious difficulties may arise after the shelling of one of the villages near Kiev. One of the energy infrastructure facilities has been damaged. Fortunately, there are no casualties among the civilian population. To help our technicians remove the failure faster, I appeal to the inhabitants of the region to save electricity from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. Together, we will rebuild everything. The United States transferred another tranche of military aid to Ukraine. The equipment will include 200 military vehicles, anti-radar missiles, and ammunition for HIMARS systems. I have directed another drawdown of arms and equipment worth $725 million from the U.S. Department of Defense inventories to Ukraine. As Ukraine's defenders push back Russia's forces, the United States stands united with Ukraine. The Saudis also announced help. Saudi Arabia will allocate $400 million of humanitarian aid to Ukraine. According to the country's foreign ministry, President Zelensky held a telephone conversation with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The Belarusian regime has announced mobilization. It takes place under the pretext of checking the combat capability of military units and is related to the alleged terrorist threat from Ukraine. Initially, the mobilization is to involve the rural population, as Lukashenko is afraid of protests in large cities. Due to the aggravation of the situation, we are introducing a state of increased terrorist threat. That is why we have started the procedures for the deployment of a troop group, the basis of which is, as I said, the Belarusian army, and which is completed by units of the Russian Federation. Everything according to the plan. Even if Minsk does not join the war, the prospect of an attack may force Ukraine to move some of its units to the Belarusian border, which would make it difficult to conduct a counteroffensive in the east.
And Polish pipeline operator PERN announced today that the pumping of crude oil in the damaged Druzhba, or Friendship pipeline, has been restored. The pipeline had been damaged earlier in the week, and foul play had been suspected. PERN's technical services restored the full functionality of the damaged pipeline used to deliver crude oil to the company's German customers on Saturday, PERN said in a statement. The leak was discovered late on Tuesday, October 11th, and PERN said the next day that there was no sign that third-party interference caused the damage. The leak, around 70 kilometers west from Poland's Płock refinery, led to a reduction in Russian oil supplies to Germany via Poland. Europe has been on high alert over the security of its energy infrastructure since major leaks were found last month in the Nord Stream 1 and 2 gas pipelines running from Russia to Europe under the Baltic Sea. Both the West and Russia have blamed sabotage. The causes that led to the leakage are being investigated. Currently, the activity of PERN services is focused on clearing the area and restoring it to its original condition, PERN said in a statement earlier today. Well, earlier today, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz called for an expanded European Union, telling a gathering of European Social Democrats that it would then be able to better pull its weight in global affairs.
Europe must assume responsibility for its own security and defense and strengthen European defense capabilities in order to support and strengthen NATO as the key pillar of our common security policy. Dear Magdalena and dear Sanna, who is not with us at this moment, I'm delighted that we will soon strengthen our NATO alliance by welcoming Sweden and Finland as members.
Since assuming office, Scholz has made European Union expansion to include the Balkans and other nations a major plank of his foreign policy. It has taken on more urgency since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which became a candidate for EU membership early this summer.
I
support the expansion of the European Union. For the European Union to grow eastwards is an asset for all of us. Of course, candidate countries are called upon to fulfill the criteria for an accession. We will support them in the best possible way in this endeavor. But the European Union, too, has to be made fit for this expansion. The European Union will be able to accept new members if it keeps up the dynamics of European absorption by creating the basis for a significantly larger EU.
And the 20th National Congress of the Communist Party of China held its first meeting at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing this afternoon. This important event occurs only every 5 years and is a key moment for China's leadership, where it lays out its most important plans for the next 5 years. This year, however, the event was greeted by something extremely rare in China: protests. Beijing authorities removed rare banners of political protest from an overpass in the Chinese capital, according to images circulated widely on social media just days before the start of a twice-in-a-decade Communist Party Congress. One banner read, "Let us strike from schools and from work and remove the dictatorial traitor Xi Jinping. We want to eat. We want freedom. We want to vote." General Secretary of the CPC Central Committee Xi Jinping attended today's opening meeting and delivered an important speech. Presided over by Secretary General of the Congress Wang Huning, the meeting approved the name list of the 46-member Standing Committee of the Presidium, including Comrade Xi Jinping. Ding Xuejiang, Shen Xi, Guo Shenkun, and Huang Kunming were elected as the Deputy Secretaries General of the Congress. The meeting also adopted the agenda of the 20th CPC National Congress, which is scheduled to open at 10 a.m. tomorrow at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing and conclude on October 22nd. Speaking at a press conference earlier today at the Congress, Sun Yeli, spokesman for the 20th National Congress, introduced China's new development paradigm. Opening up is a basic state policy of China. No matter how the world may change, China's resolve and will to open up are unwavering. We will steadfastly pursue opening up on a larger scale, across more areas, and in greater depth. And finally, the fourth long-duration astronaut team launched by SpaceX to the International Space Station safely returned to Earth yesterday, splashing down in the Atlantic Ocean off of Florida after nearly 6 months of research aboard the station.
The SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule, dubbed Freedom, carrying 3 U.S. NASA astronauts and an Italian crewmate from the European Space Agency, parachuted into the sea at the conclusion of a 5-hour autonomous flight home from the International Space Station. Splashdown recovery teams were expected to take at least an hour to reach the capsule bobbing in the water, hoist it onto the deck of a retrieval vessel, and let the astronauts out for their first breath of fresh air in more than 24 weeks. The return from orbit followed a fiery re-entry plunge through Earth's atmosphere, generating frictional heat that sent temperatures outside the capsule soaring to 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit, or 1,930 degrees Celsius. 2 sets of parachutes billowed open above the capsule in the final stage of descent, slowing its fall to about 15 miles per hour, or 24 kilometers per hour, before the craft hit the water off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida. During their 170 days aboard the space station, the crew orbited Earth 2,720 times, about once every 90 minutes, to log some 72 million miles, or 116 million kilometers in space, according to NASA.
Well, as usual, thanks for tuning in this evening. Please stay with us for Poland Daily Weather, Poland Daily Business, and other programs. But from me, it's have a wonderful Saturday night.